I did come here looking for anything. That's the truth, even if sound like something people say. Only after everything changed, at 49, I had learned how to move through days without accepting. You wake.
What needs to be done. Avoid unnecessary conversations, and tell yourself that calm is the same thing as happiness. Most of the time, it almost works. I was sitting there that afternoon because it was quiet, a neutral place, somewhere between errands and obligations. The kind of place where no one asks you who you are or why you're alone. I was watching people without really seeing them, letting my thoughts drift in safe, familiar circles. Then she spoke. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even look at me at first. It was said the way people confess something to the air, not expecting an answer. After 55, she whispered, you become invisible to men. I turned my head before I had time to decide whether I should. That part matters. The turning. Because it was already a choice, even if I didn't recognize it yet. She was sitting close enough that I could hear her breathe when she paused. 55, maybe a little more. Calm posture. No performance. The kind of woman who had stopped trying to impress a long time ago, not because she had given up, but because she had learned the cost. She wasn't asking for reassurance. That was the strange part. There was no challenge in her tone, no bitterness. Just a statement shaped by years of being overlooked. I could have nodded politely. I could have let the moment pass. That's what men my age are good at. We know how to avoid doors that might open into something complicated. Instead, I looked at her eyes. Really looked. And I heard myself say, quietly but clearly, not to me. The words surprised me as much as they seemed to surprise her. She turned then, finally meeting my gaze. There was no smile, just curiosity, measured and cautious, like someone checking whether the ground will hold before taking a step. You don't know me, she said. She was right. I didn't. But I knew that look. I had seen it in mirrors more than once. The look of someone who had been reduced to a number without consent. An age. A category. I know, I said. I only know what I see. That should have been the end of it. A brief exchange. A moment that fades as soon as you stand up and walk away. But something stayed suspended between us, fragile and uncomfortable. I felt it immediately, the pull to retreat, to remind myself that peace comes from distance, not involvement. I had built my life carefully after 40. No drama, no explanations, no risks that couldn't be undone. She seemed to sense that hesitation, not with accusation, but with acceptance, as if she expected me to disappear like the others. That was when the real choice appeared. Not about her, about me. I could leave and keep my version of calm intact. Or I could stay, knowing that staying meant responsibility, attention, the possibility of being seen in return. I stayed. We didn't talk much after that. Just small, ordinary words. The weather. The time. Nothing that sounded like a beginning. Yet when she stood to leave, she paused, as if deciding whether to acknowledge something neither of us had named. Thank you, she said, for seeing me. She walked away before I could respond. I remained there, unsettled, because I understood something I hadn't expected. This wasn't about romance. Not yet. It was about recognition. And once you offer that to another person, you can't pretend you didn't mean it. For the first time in years, the calm I had protected so carefully no longer felt sufficient. And as I watched the empty space where she had been sitting, I realized I had already crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The next time I saw her, I didn't speak. I watched first. You know that feeling when a person becomes a question you can't stop turning over in your mind? It isn't lust, not the quick, foolish kind. It's something quieter. Curiosity mixed with respect and the worry that you said something bold and now you don't get to pretend it didn't matter. I spotted her outside a little bookstore that also sold coffee. Late afternoon, pale winter sun, people moving like they were rushing away from their own thoughts. She stood near the window, reading the back of a paperback, as if the world could wait. Her coat was simple. Her hair was pinned loosely, practical and still elegant. And there it was again, that invisible line. The one you either cross or you don't. If I walked in, I'd be admitting I meant what I said. If I kept going, I could file her away as a moment. Safe. Clean. Forgettable. I went in. The bell over the door rang, and she lifted her head. Recognition flashed for half a second. Then she guarded it. A woman doesn't get to be 55 in peace without learning how to protect herself from hope. You again, she said, like it was a fact she hadn't asked for. Yeah, I answered. I think I owe you a better line than last time. We ended up in the same short line for coffee. I ordered black, habit. She ordered tea with lemon. You don't drink coffee? I asked. I used to, she said. Back when I thought sleep was optional. There was a history in that sentence. We found a small table by the window. I didn't ask if I could sit. I waited. She nodded once, and that was her way of saying yes. Up close, she looked real. Not perfect, not polished in the way magazines demand. Real in the way life leaves soft marks, a faint line near the mouth, tiredness that comes and goes behind the eyes, the kind of beauty that isn't trying to win. I'm Daniel, I said. She hesitated, then answered, Marianne. I repeated it, not to flatter, but to remember. Marianne. Her gaze held mine. You always talk like you're choosing each word. Because I am, I admitted. I learned the hard way that words can cost you. She studied me. What do you do, Daniel? I manage maintenance for a small condo association, I said. Not glamorous, but it keeps the lights on. That's honest work, she said, and the way she said it told me she meant it. I wanted to ask about her, but she didn't feel like someone you corner with curiosity, so I asked smaller. What were you reading? She turned the cover toward me. I've read it 3 times, she said. It reminds me that endings can be quiet and still be true. A few minutes passed in shared silence. She watched people outside. I watched her hands around the mug, warming her fingers as if she'd been cold for a long time. Are you a widow? I asked, and immediately regretted how blunt it sounded. Her head turned slowly. No anger, just a firm boundary. Yes, she said. For 6 years. I'm sorry, I said. Most people are, she replied. Then they move on. You can't fix grief. You can only respect it. I didn't mean to pry, I said. I know, she answered softer. People ask because they want a story. And I'm tired of being a story. I nodded. Then don't be. Not to me. That time, she smiled, brief and surprised, like a door opening a crack. For a moment, I imagined what it would be like to know her in ordinary ways. Shopping lists, phone calls, shared jokes, the comfort of someone who doesn't demand you be young again. The thought was gentle and dangerous, because with that thought came the doubt. Was I drawn to her because I actually wanted her in my life, or because she made me feel decent, like a man who still has something to offer besides routine? Marianne set her mug down carefully. Why did you say it, she asked. That first day. I could have given the easy answer. I could have joked. I could have shrugged. Instead, I told her the truth I wasn't sure I was ready to live with. Because when you said you were invisible, I said, I realized I've been walking around like that too. Just quieter about it. She didn't answer right away. She looked past me at the shelves, at the couples browsing side by side, and exhaled like she'd been holding something for years. I ran a small nonprofit, she said, before my husband got sick. After that, my world became hospitals, paperwork, and pretending I wasn't terrified. Her voice stayed calm, but her fingers tightened on the tea. When he died, everyone called me strong. Then they went back to their lives. I felt my throat go dry. So what do you do now? I consult, she said. Enough to stay independent. I like buying my own groceries without owing anyone gratitude. She hesitated. And you? Married. Divorced, I said. No kids. That silence after no was louder than I expected. You can fill a life with routine, but empty rooms still echo when someone walks too close. Marianne's eyes softened, not with pity, but recognition. That's its own kind of lonely, she said. A man at the next table laughed too loudly, and Marianne flinched, barely. I noticed. Another choice. Pretend I hadn't, or meet it with gentleness. Want a quieter place next time? I asked. There's a park nearby. No noise, no pressure. She studied me, weighing me, then gave a nod. Maybe, she said. Not today. But maybe. Outside, the light faded. The bookstore grew warmer, softer. And, in that warmth, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. The pull to stay a little longer than necessary. She gathered her book and looked at me like she was deciding whether to trust the moment. Daniel, she said, don't make promises you can't keep. I swallowed. That sentence wasn't about romance. It was about attention. And as she walked out, I understood the new choice waiting for me. To follow her into something real, or to protect my life by stepping back, before she started to believe I meant every word. The first warning came from a man who thought he was doing me a favor. I was in the maintenance office when my phone buzzed. A text from Tom, the condo board president. Got a minute? Upstairs. Tom lived for control, dressed up as friendliness. Late 50s, golf shirt no matter the season. The kind of guy who smiled while he tightened the leash. He had the blinds tilted in the conference room like this was already a secret. No coffee. No small talk. Daniel, he said, tapping a folder. I'm going to ask you straight. Are you seeing a resident? I blinked. What? People talk, he said. They notice who's with who. It gets messy. One complaint, and we're all dealing with lawyers. I'm not seeing anyone who lives here, I said. Tom slid a printed email across the table. Anonymous. Ugly. Daniel Harper has been meeting with an older woman. Unprofessional. Using his position. Watch your wives. Watch your property. I felt my face heat, not from shame, anger. This is garbage, I said. Maybe, Tom replied, shrugging. But garbage still stinks. Residents love a story. I'm telling you to be smart. Keep your head down. There it was, the threat wrapped in advice. My job wasn't just fixing lights and doors. It was being trusted. One rumor, and trust evaporates. I walked out into the cold and stood by my truck, staring at my phone like it had betrayed me. Mary Ann's name sat in my recent calls, quiet and harmless. We'd only met twice since the bookstore, tea once, then a slow walk through a park where we talked about ordinary things. Sleep, grocery prices, the strange comfort of silence when it's shared. And now someone had decided to drag her into the open. My first instinct was self-preservation. You know it. The older you get, the more you protect what little piece you've built. I could stop calling her. Let it fade. No more risk. No more eyes. Then I heard her voice in my head. Don't make promises you can't keep. I hadn't promised romance. I'd promised something simpler. Seeing her like she mattered. My phone rang. This time it was Mary Ann. Daniel, are you at work? Her tone was controlled, but her breath wasn't. Yeah. What's wrong? I'm fine, she said, and it was the kind of fine that isn't. A woman came by my place. Mid-60s. She smiled too hard. She asked if I needed help, then slipped your name into the conversation like it was casual. Mary Ann paused. She told me to be careful. Said men your age don't visit women like me for nothing. My jaw tightened. The real weapon wasn't a fist. It was shame, aimed straight at her dignity. Do you know who she was? I asked. No, Mary Ann said. But she knew enough. Her voice lowered. I don't want to ruin your life. That sentence hit harder than the email. Because it meant she was already preparing to disappear to protect me. To make herself small, like the world wanted. I'm not letting you carry this, I said. Tell me where you are. At home, she answered. I drove over after my shift. Her street looked peaceful in that fake way neat neighborhoods do. Trim lawns, tidy mailboxes, curtains that never fully open. Mary Ann was on her porch, cardigan wrapped tight, arms crossed like she was holding herself together. I could feel eyes before I saw them. Pressure teaches you to imagine the jury. I hate this, she said when I reached the steps. I hate that one sentence I whispered has turned into this. It didn't, I said. People turned it into this. She glanced toward a house down the street. A curtain moved, then went still. My choice sharpened. Play small and keep my job safe, or draw a line and accept the cost. I pulled out my phone and typed to Tom, "I'm not involved with any resident. Someone is harassing a woman off property using my name. If the board got a complaint, I expect it documented and treated as harassment." I hit send before I could talk myself out of it. Marianne watched me like I'd done something reckless. "You didn't have to." "I did," I said. "Because silence is how they win." "And if it costs you?" she asked. I looked at the quiet street, the tidy lawns, the hidden faces. "Then it costs me," I said. "But I'm tired of living like my dignity is rented." Marianne's eyes shone with something steady and scared at the same time. Across the street, a porch light clicked on. A silhouette shifted in a window. A phone lifted, no question what for. Marianne's voice dropped. "Daniel, they're recording this." And with cold air in my lungs, and my name already turning into rumor, I realized my decision had consequences moving faster than I could be. By the time I reached my truck, my phone had new notifications. One was an email from Tom, "Meeting tomorrow 7:30 a.m. Board wants clarity." Another was a screenshot from the neighborhood app, grainy, taken through a window. Me, on Marianne's porch. Her beside me. A caption, "Is this our maintenance guy?" I sat behind the wheel doing math. Residents refusing entry. The board cutting my hours until things calm down. At 49, you don't restart like you did at 25. Marianne leaned toward my open window without stepping off the porch. "You should go," she said, "before it gets worse." That was her offering me an exit. I could take it. I could let her fade back into the background so I could stay employable. Instead, I said, "No. I'm not leaving like I did something dirty." Her jaw tightened. "I don't want you to lose everything because of me." "It wouldn't be because of you," I told her. "It would be because I let strangers define my intentions." She looked at me a long moment. "Then what do we do?" I swallowed. "Tomorrow, I tell the board the truth. And if they ask who you are to me, I say you're a person I respect." She nodded once, small but real. "Just don't disappear," she whispered. I drove off with that sentence burning in my chest, knowing that by morning I'd either defend her out loud or prove every cruel whisper right. I didn't sleep the night before the board meeting, not because I was afraid of getting yelled at. What kept me awake was the thought of walking into that room and realizing I'd already lost before I opened my mouth. At 49, your reputation is a tool you use every day. Once it's cracked, everything leaks through. At 7:30 a.m. the conference room smelled like cheap coffee and polite judgment. Tom sat at the head of a table with two other board members, all of them wearing that careful expression people use when they don't want to admit they're enjoying the drama. "Daniel," Tom began, "we need clarity." I stayed standing. "Ask your questions." A woman named Linda, retired attorney, always calm, folded her hands. "Are you involved with a resident?" "No," I said. "Marianne doesn't live in our buildings. She's being harassed because someone decided a woman her age can't be seen with a man my age without it being dirty." Tom leaned back. "You understand perception." "I understand gossip," I replied. "And I understand that someone posted my photo without consent. That's harassment." They exchanged looks. Reggie, the quiet one, cleared his throat. "We're not accusing you of misconduct," he said, "which is what people say right before they punish you. But residents are uneasy. We have to protect the association." There it was, protect the association. Meaning, protect themselves. Linda slid a paper toward me. "Temporary reassignment," she said. "No resident-facing work for 30 days. We'll review after." 30 days without the normal hours meant bills getting tight. I wanted to argue, to demand fairness. But I could hear Marianne's warning. Don't make promises you can't keep. This was the moment for a different promise, the kind you make to yourself. I took the paper and signed it. Tom looked surprised. "So you accept the reassignment?" "I accept that you're afraid," I said. "I don't accept that I did anything wrong." Outside, the air felt sharper. I sat in my truck and stared at Marianne's contact name. One call could pull her into this deeper. One call could also prove I meant what I told her. I won't disappear. My thumb hovered. Then I pictured that screenshot, the caption, the implication. If I kept calling, they'd keep feeding on it. And if she got hit again because I needed comfort, that would be selfish. So I didn't call. That's how distance begins. Not with a fight, with a decision that looks noble from the outside and feels like betrayal on the inside. Days passed. I worked in back rooms, boilers, storage, places where no one sees you unless something breaks. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marianne had said she was invisible. Now I was practicing the same thing, pretending it was strategy. On the 7th evening, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. "Daniel," a woman's voice asked. "Yes. This is Marianne's sister, Claire," she said. "She didn't want to call you. She told me not to. But she hasn't been herself." My chest tightened. "Is she okay?" "She's safe," Claire said. "But she's doing what she always does when something threatens someone else. She disappears. She thinks that's love." Of course. Marianne wasn't pulling away because she didn't care. She was pulling away because she cared too much to let me pay for it. Claire continued, softer now. When her husband got sick, Marianne handled everything. She learned that being strong means not asking for help. She thinks the only way to keep you safe is to make you forget her. "I haven't forgotten," I said. There was a pause. "Then prove it," Claire replied. "But don't barge in. Don't make a scene. She won't respond to pressure. She'll respond to steadiness." After the call, I sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, feeling something shift inside me. Less anger, more clarity. My choice wasn't between Marianne and my job. It was between hiding and living. I went to the bookstore the next afternoon, the one where we'd shared tea and careful truths. I didn't text her. I didn't announce myself. I just sat at the same table by the window with a paperback in my hands, not reading. 20 minutes later, the bell over the door rang. Marianne stepped in, then froze when she saw me. Her face tightened like she'd walked into a memory she tried to lock away. I stood slowly, keeping my voice low. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "I'm here to be where I said I'd be." Her eyes flashed, hurt, relief, pride. "You shouldn't," she whispered. "They're watching." "I know," I said. "Let them." She shook her head once, the way a person does when they're trying not to cry in public. "Daniel, I was trying to protect you." "And I was trying to protect you," I replied. So we both ended up alone. We sat. No touching. Just two people choosing the same air again. "I got reassigned," I told her. 30 days. "It's not fair, but it's not the end." Marianne stared into her tea. "I ruined your work." "No," I said. "Gossip did. Fear did. And my own habit of disappearing almost did." She lifted her gaze. "Why are you doing this?" I chose one honest sentence. "Because when you said you were invisible, I decided I didn't want to be that kind of man." Outside the window, a couple walked past holding hands, oblivious. Inside, the room felt too small for what I was feeling. Marianne whispered, "If you stay near me, they will keep talking." I nodded. "Then we decide what matters more." She reached into her coat pocket and set something on the table, a folded note, edges worn. "My husband wrote this," she said. "The last week." Her voice trembled, but held. It says, "Don't make your world smaller to spare other people discomfort." I stared at the paper like it was a match. And in that moment, I understood the real risk wasn't losing my job for a month. It was choosing her, and having to live up to it every day after the gossip moved on. And for the first time in years, I wasn't invisible, today. The first thing I did that morning was delete the neighborhood app. Not dramatically. Not as a statement to anyone. I simply realized I was checking it the way people check a bruise, touching it to see if it still hurts. Every new comment, every just asking question, was a little theft of my attention. And attention, at my age, is one of the few currencies you can still choose where to spend. I drove to the hardware store for work supplies, then sat in the parking lot longer than necessary, watching my own hands on the steering wheel. You know that pause I'm talking about, the quiet moment where you either return to the old you, or you step forward and accept that life will look different. Marianne's husband's note stayed in my pocket like a weight. Don't make your world smaller to spare other people discomfort. By noon, I had two options. Keep things vague and respectful, which is often code for hiding. or have one honest conversation with the people who held my paycheck and one honest conversation with the woman who'd stopped asking the world for permission. I chose honesty, even though honesty has a price. The board meeting wasn't scheduled, but I asked for 10 minutes anyway. Tom looked annoyed when I walked in, as if I'd interrupted his sense of order. Linda and Reggie were there again, faces neutral. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "I'm here to set terms." Tom's eyebrows lifted. "Terms?" "Yes," I replied. "Someone is harassing a private citizen off property using my name. If the association receives complaints based on gossip, I want them handled as harassment, not as perception. And I want it in writing that I've had no misconduct." Linda leaned back. "That's a strong request." "It's a fair one," I said, "because if you punish me for being photographed in public, you're telling every employee their dignity depends on strangers being kind." Reggie cleared his throat. "We don't want a lawsuit." "Neither do I said. "So document the truth and discourage the rumor mill." Tom tried the old tone, friendly warning. "Daniel, you're making this bigger." I met his eyes. "No, I'm making it clearer." There was silence. Then Linda nodded once. "Send us your statement," she said. "We'll add it to the file. And we'll remind residents about privacy and harassment." I didn't win a medal. I didn't get an apology. But the air shifted. I walked out feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Self-respect that wasn't dependent on anyone's approval. The second conversation mattered more. Marian met me at the park, not the bookstore. Wind moved the bare branches. It wasn't romantic. It was honest. She stood with her hands in her coat pockets, shoulders squared like she was bracing for bad news. "I heard you went back to the board," she said. "I did," I answered. "And before you say it, no, I'm not doing it to prove something. I'm doing it because I don't want you carrying blame that isn't yours." Her eyes softened, then tightened again. "Daniel, I don't want to be your problem." I nodded. "Good. Because you're not." We walked slowly, keeping space between us the way two careful people do when they don't trust the world to stay quiet. A couple passed us, laughing, and Marian watched them with a look that was half warmth, half grief. "I didn't pull away because I didn't feel anything," she said. "I pulled away because I know what happens. People decide you're desperate. They decide he's using you. They decide you should be grateful for crumbs." I stopped walking. "Look at me," I said. She did. "I'm not here to rescue you," I told her. "And I'm not here for crumbs. I'm here because I like who I am when I'm with you, more awake, more decent. And because I respect you. That's the foundation I can offer." Marian swallowed. Foundations still collapse. "Sometimes," I said. "That's why I'm not making fairy promises. I can't promise no one will talk. I can't promise my job won't get complicated again. I can't promise we'll never disappoint each other." Her chin lifted, like she was preparing to be hurt. "But I can promise this," I continued. "I won't disappear to make other people comfortable. If I need space, I'll say it. If I'm scared, I'll admit it. And if you're scared, you don't have to vanish to protect me. We decide together what our life looks like." For a long moment Marianne said nothing. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out the folded note again. She didn't open it. She just held it between two fingers like a reminder of the man who'd loved her without owning her. "He wanted that for me," she whispered. "A life that doesn't shrink. And I want that for you too," I said, "even if the world never claps." She let out a breath that sounded like surrender, but it wasn't defeat. It was permission given to herself. "Then we start small," she said. "Coffee once a week. Walks. No hiding, but no performing either." I smiled, not big, not foolish. Just relieved. That sounds real. We kept walking. The wind stayed cold. The world stayed the world. But something inside me settled, like a chair finally placed on level ground. That night, I didn't check for new posts. I didn't rehearse comebacks. I went to bed knowing one simple thing. I had chosen to see a woman, and I had chosen to be seen back. At 49, that isn't a miracle. It's a decision. Before I turned the light off, my phone buzzed. A short message from Tom, board note sent. Reassignment stands, but no further action. No warmth, no apology, just confirmation that the story was losing fuel. I stared at the screen and felt something unexpected. Not victory, but quiet relief. Because the real outcome wasn't their decision. It was mine. I wasn't invisible anymore, not to her, and not to myself. And if tomorrow brought new whispers, I knew what I'd do. Breathe, stand straight, and choose the same thing again. Not romance as a stunt, just two grown people refusing to shrink. Enough, right now.